to report a disturbance. Big speakers blasting like FU music.
Shots fired! Shots fired!
Call ended on Tuesday, January 14th, 2014.
You're listening to a podcast of Wake Up with WURD, exclusively on WURDradio.com.
On the line, we have attorney John M. Phillips, and he's a Jacksonville-based attorney who specializes in civil trial law, and he is currently the attorney for the family of Gregory Hill, Jr., and Gregory Hill was shot and killed by police in 2014, and it's 2018, 4 years later, but most recently there was a verdict that was given on his case that the Hills family was supposed to be awarded $4 as payment for his death, and that is something really unusual, and I think the attorney sees that $4 payment as suspicious and insulting, and we're very honored to have Attorney Phillips on with us to give us an overview of this case and what's happening and where it's going to go next. And so welcome to the show, Attorney Phillips. How are you?
Good morning. It's absolutely my pleasure.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And so let's start off by giving some background on the case, because, this was something that happened back January 14th, 2014, when Gregory Hill was shot and killed by the St. Lucie police. And so give us the background so we have a foundation to understand this case.
Certainly. So it's about 3:15 in the afternoon on a weekday, and Mr. Hill lived across the street from the school that his kids attended. And look, Mr. Hill had a bad day. He and his fiance were supposed to get married, and she had 40 people in the wedding party, and you know how that works. It's a lot of pressure on the guy because we don't carry the load as much, and just he had a bad day. He was off from work from his job at Coca-Cola for workers' comp. He had gotten his leg caught in a machine and just had a couple drinks with his cousin and was listening to, actually the song at the time was Drake, All Me, I got everything. And as school was getting out, a parent called the police because the music was too loud. And the police came pretty quickly. By that time, he had closed the door, and all the teachers and principal and everybody said they couldn't hear the music anymore. But, the police went and banged on his garage door and then went and banged on his home door and left dents in it. And Mr. Hill snatched up the garage door to see who was on the other side and snatched it back down as soon as he saw that he didn't want to deal with that today. And he was shot 4 times through the garage door, 3 hit him, and he was killed.
Now, the police say that he had a gun, and that's why they opened fired, and there are all kinds of things that the police are saying that they had gotten. They thought that the fiance or someone else was in the house, and they thought that he was kind of like holding her. So from what I read, they called a SWAT team, and there was sounds like it was like a real overreaction to the situation, but it became very very violent very quickly. So what's the response to the police's contention that he had a gun?
Certainly. And when Mr. Hill was found, 4 hours later, after they tear gassed his home and brought in snipers and brought in a robot, he lied dead immediately after getting shot. A gun was found in his back pocket. That we have the Second Amendment in this country, and last time I checked, it applies no matter what race, creed, or colors you are. And, the police say that he had that gun out, and it's been an evolving story of what they commanded him to do, where they say that gun was, because originally when this cop was facing criminal charges, that gun was straight out like you see in the movie. And by the civil trial, it was down by his side, by his leg, because it couldn't have been straight out like you see at the movies, and Hill still got shot in the abdomen and the thigh, and the gun be free of blood splatter, and the gun be free of significant DNA, and the gun, not have been seen by his daughter who sat across the street, not in his hands. So, police always have an explanation. I don't need to tell you or your listeners that. And we did not, from day one, buy their explanation. And I didn't, based upon the reaction of the jury, I had hoped they didn't buy this explanation. But, something happened. This was, I've tried cases all over the country for 17 years, and frankly hadn't lost one in about 8 years. And this hurt.
So
$4.
Was there ever a criminal trial?
No, they brought all the favorable evidence to this officer. They brought to a grand jury, and the grand jury said no charges should be filed. Now, again, all the witnesses that saw an empty hand never were asked to talk in front of a grand jury, which goes back to that whole expression that a grand jury will, acquit a ham sandwich. They're as good as what they're given, and this is in fight.
So, you were representing Gregory Hill's mother, Viola Bryant?
Yes.
And so I'm sorry, go ahead.
And his 3 kids. I mean, mainly this was about Greg's 3 children, little Greg the third, Ariana and Destiny, who are now 13, 9, and 7, who at the time, were 4 years younger. And this was, they lost their father. And one of them saw her father get shot through the garage door. And this was, at all times about them.
So tell us what message, so this, it was a civil trial, and what I read that Viola Bryant and the family were really seeking like about $15,000 as a settlement and initially. But what happened in the course of this trial that the verdict came back with a $4 settlement?
Right. So $15,000 is what we have to plead just to satisfy the court minimum. We were seeking substantially more than $15,000. I told the jury in my closing argument that, some might view this as a $500,000 case, and some might view it as a $10 million case. And we asked the jury for about $5 million, about $1.5 million per kid. And so, we were asking for a substantial amount of money, but over the course of a lifetime, losing a father, that money can never replace that. So, back to the question of what happened, and I don't know. Again, I'd rather have seen a zero in that line, I guess, than be insulted, because it's one of 3 things. Either they just completely were confused and didn't understand what the heck they were doing, or they were trying to punish this family with, I compared it in a national interview to when you have bad service at a restaurant. Some people leave nothing. Now, you should always take care of your service, but some people leave nothing, and some people leave $1. And they leave $1 because they want you to know that they didn't forget. They wanted you to know that they were unhappy. And I don't know if it was that or if they just really believed that these children's losses were only $1.
We're talking with Attorney John Phillips, who represents Gregory Hill's mother, Viola Bryant, and his 3 children. And Gregory Hill was shot and killed through a closed garage door by police in St. Lucie County, Florida. And they just got back, I guess, when was that verdict delivered? Was it a few weeks ago?
It was Thursday a week ago, so a week from last Thursday.
Okay, and it was a $4 judgment or verdict, and so there has been some national attention to this because, like you said, that they could have just said zero. You were asking for $5 million, and they came up with $4. And what I understand is they didn't even not that anybody needs $4. That doesn't even buy you a coffee at a coffee shop anymore. But what do you think they were trying to say?
So I don't know, and it gets worse than the $4 because they found Mr. Hill 99% responsible for everything. Then you got to the judge does the math, and it's they get 1%. For the 1% they found the sheriff's office responsible of the $4. So really, wow. 4 pennies. And you might be able to buy something with $4, but I know you can't buy anything with 4 pennies.
And I'm just wondering if the judge had any discretion in this verdict.
The judge will. We're still at the stage where we get to file a motion for new trial and potentially for a jury interview. Although I don't even, I don't even know if I want to hear what they have to say. But we've still got appeals and we feel strongly that we can have a jury outside of St. Lucie County hear this. I haven't talked about this much, but my office was followed from our trial to our hotel by St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. And, there's been a prior case that we found out about after the verdict where St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office pulled over the only black juror who was about to deliberate in a civil rights case against St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. Now, that didn't happen in our case that we know of, but this is a police force that flexed its muscle to us and has flexed its muscle in prior cases, and that's justice is the 17th word in the Constitution, and we got a lot of problems in this country, but we've got to, this is the opposite of justice.
Are you able to stay with us for a few minutes after the break?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're talking with attorney John M. Phillips, and he's based in Jacksonville, Florida. He's the attorney for the family of Gregory Hill, and Hill was shot and killed by police in 2014, and a verdict about his case and his wrongful shooting was deliberated and arrived at maybe a week and a half ago, and they awarded $4 as payment for his death, even though there are some very suspicious circumstances around it. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with attorney John M. Phillips. Don't go away.
You're listening to Wake Up with WURD on WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
You are listening to Wake Up with WURD, and we're talking with attorney John M. Phillips from Jacksonville, Florida, about the Gregory Hill Jr. case. And Hill was shot and killed by police in 2014 under very suspicious circumstances, which attorney Phillips just outlined for us. And recently they awarded the family a $4 payment for his death. He's got 3 small children and his mother, and is his fiance or his intended, is she still connected with the family?
She is. They're still very close. Okay. And she was there throughout trial because she was a witness as to the children. She actually had to sit outside the door for trial until her kids testified, until the children testified, because the children were all hers, or 2 out of the 3. And so she and her mother both have been just warriors through this, and it with justice, I say sometimes in speeches that justice is spelled one way, but it's defined, individually. It's defined a million different ways, and the jury did a disservice and an injustice by awarding $4, but the one thing that the families looked at is people are talking about this case now. And people are talking about, do Black Lives Matter in the civil justice and criminal justice system? And that conversation wouldn't have necessarily been had today and over the week if it weren't for that injustice.
Yeah.
So, I'm not grateful for this jury in any way, but, we are having a conversation that I hope we'll continue to have.
Sure. My colleague, Jay Scott Smith, has a question for you.
Good morning. Good morning, John.
Morning, Jay.
So I'm hearing that when I hear you talk about this, it's just the first thing that pops into my head is, was there some sort of precedent for a determination like this, where you have the 1% of the 1% to have something in a case like this be deemed so almost to the point where they treat it like it was a frivolous lawsuit? Like you hear about this in business suits a lot, where they'll settle for $1. But have you heard of this in a personal injury wrongful death suit such as this before? And in terms of potentially an appeal, what would you be able to do? Would there be, what kind of recourse could you seek here?
An appeal will allow us to start over and hopefully start over in a different town. That's generally what we seek. And there's about 5 different grounds for appeal, one of which is what happened on this verdict form and what happened with this whole $1 thing. So I've never seen, and I looked over the weekend, this happen, where it's almost punitive. Now, in federal civil rights cases, there is a law, there is a jury instruction which says you can award $1 if you feel that the case had merit, but there was no damage. And that is not what we had. We had $11,000 in funeral expenses, and we had 3 children left behind. This isn't or wasn't the case where a prisoner was arrested, a prisoner was in jail and got maced inappropriately, and there was a violation of civil rights, but he was still in prison and, didn't have lost income and all of that. With those type cases, you sometimes see something like this, but this was completely different and off the charts.
I'm curious, Attorney, how the family is doing, especially the daughter who was at the school and was like a witness to seeing her father being killed this way. And I mean, did she receive therapy? I mean, I know that there's a lot of trauma around an experience like this.
She did. She's had therapy. Now, if you can't tell by my voice, I'm of the white privilege persuasion, and I've done everything in my career to use that for good. I can't help, how I was born. But I took these kids 3 weeks before trial to Chuck E. Cheese. And we skee-balled and we shot basketball and we did everything we could because I knew they were about to have a scary day. And they've lived it for 4 years, and you've got 3 different personalities. You've got little Greg the Third, who will never know his namesake, right? And he has a couple of memories of his dad, but he'll never get to know his dad. And you have Ariana, who was the middle child, who is just as bubbly and effervescent, and stood up there on that stand and said her dad taught her how to fish, and we kind of reminded the jury of that old adage, teach a girl to fish, or give a girl a fish, she'll eat for a meal. Teach a girl to fish, she'll eat for life. And Ariana said she wanted to be a fisher girl for a profession. And then you have Destiny, who saw this, and she has a tortured soul. She's coming out. She did better. We've worked on her to be able to tell this story, and the counselors have worked on her because it's important. She saw her dad with an empty hand, and she saw how quick this was. And so we needed her as a witness, but we also needed her to humanize these 3 children, to humanize what the alternative narrative was, which was, Greg Hill drunk, Greg Hill listening to obscene music. Last time I checked, Drake is more what's in my car radio than those listening to, harder core music. But it's sad that we have to kind of reprogram, because look, this is a jury of 8. We had 1 African American male and seven Caucasians. And, we spent the entire time trying to program them that it's all okay. We can all step inside other people's bubbles and understand. And we don't have to listen to the narrative that as a country, we've been force-fed about Black lives and about, this thug life that we're all, that the movies portray. And it's just not true. And it was heartbreaking to the family. The fiance walked out as soon as she heard, because it was $4. So there was 4 lines, funeral expenses, and each child. So we had to hear $, $, $, and all of the heads sunk on our side each time. And the crazy thing is the jury deliberated for 10 hours to come up with 10 hours.
Wow.
And, there was fighting. You could tell that when they came out, they were, that they had been arguing. But I just don't know how any argument ends in this.
Right. It's so intentionally dismissive. So wow, that is incredible. And some of these elements, the music element reminds me of the Jordan Davis case, where they were saying there was these kids had loud music and this boy is shot dead as a consequence. And Tamir Rice, the cops come out and in a matter of seconds are shooting this child down. And so, both of those things, the loud music, it sounds like, from the reports I've seen, that almost instantaneously they were shooting him, through the garage door. It wasn't like they tried to coax him out, or, it sounds like it was very quick. There was a lot of thoughtlessness involved.
You've got me crying on the road this morning. Jordan Davis was my case.
Oh my goodness.
And Ron and Lucie are still very close. In fact, Lucie, Jordan's mom, is in the finals for a federal Congress position. She's taken, all of that to the higher stage to keep working for her son. And over loud music, over somebody's instant response. And when you look at what Deputy Newman did and said, all of this happened within a second to 2 seconds. And there's just no way you can add up the time. Like I had Newman scream out as loud as he could at trial, "Sheriff's office, gun, put down the gun," which is what he said he commanded Greg Hill to do. That took 2.5 seconds. He said it 3 times. That's 9 to 10 seconds. Greg Hill'd be inside having a sandwich if that were true. He'd be alive if that were true. And that's the problem here, is our justice system. Look, there are great cops out there that keep us all protected. But there's and again, I'm preaching to the choir here. I understand. But there's officers who just trip on power, trip on racism, come from a bad place. And when we have juries basically go with their side, it puts me at a loss. And fortunately we put up a GoFundMe for this family, and the public, even though the jury only gave $4, the public has $57,000 raised for these 3 kids.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what can we do from Philadelphia to help? And we have our own issues here in Philly. I don't want people calling up and saying, we have stuff that's happening right here that has to be addressed. But what could people do if they wanted to help this family?
certainly. The GoFundMe is linked at justiceforgreghill.com. Justiceforgreghill.com. If anybody wants to, continue the conversation or wants to look at some of the forensic evidence or, has some ideas outside. We hired the best, and even the judge's staff said our expert demolished their expert. I mean, their expert got up there, and before I said good morning, he said, now you remember I'm hearing impaired. This is the guy who just answered 45 minutes of questions from the other expert, from the other lawyer. And question 5, he told me, well, my dad died, so I didn't get a chance to research. I mean, it was shenanigans and injustice all throughout trial. And the judge saw it, and I hope she does the right thing. But, we've all got to, again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but if I could give the choir one message, we all walked into that church when that choir is hitting that note and they're singing. And look, I know jury duty sucks, and I know you think there's no place for you in it sometimes, but I need you to show up. There was a sister who was in this panel who said, I don't want to be here. And I was like, come on. I couldn't tell her, but I was like, come on, we need you here. We need you here. We need your voice. And when the choir sings, we might can find some other inspiration. So that's my real message.
Yeah.
To this audience is, we've got lawyers trying, we've got good politicians trying. I know the WURD is out there as a Black-owned station, trying to fight for the causes. But the people that just sometimes put their head down and think I don't matter, you do matter.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate your time and sharing the details of this case and just letting us know how we can participate, not just on the GoFundMe page, but participating on the juries. I think that needs to be something that's underscored over and over and over again, because jury duty is a drag. I mean, everybody, that's your knee-jerk reaction is I want to get out of it. But these are the kinds of cases that make us understand how important it is to show up and to, do that civic duty. So thank you so much. We've been talking with attorney John M. Phillips, and we've been talking with him about the Gregory Hill Jr. case that he has been overseeing. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Bless y'all.
You've been listening to a podcast of Wake Up with WURD, heard here Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. till 10 a.m., exclusively on WURDradio.com.